Hi guys, so today we're checking out the RedRock 4x4 Manual Hard Top Hoist, fitting all 2018 and newer two-door JL Wranglers. So taking the hardtop off of your Jeep is definitely one of the best experiences that the Jeep has to offer. However, when you have a hardtop, that can be pretty difficult, considering that the hardtop is heavy, it's awkward to take off, you always usually need an extra hand to do so, and storing it is not that easy considering the size of the hardtop itself. Now, getting a hoist is a very easy solution to all of those problems, and this option by RedRock 4x4 is going to be one of your most affordable and your most user-friendly options in order to do that. Now, this system is going to come with a 4-point system, so you're going to have all of the heavy-duty hardware that you need to mount it to the ceiling in your garage. This is going to come with 4 heavy-duty straps to allow you to very easily take the hardtop off of your Wrangler, and I personally like the simple design out of this because it makes it so user-friendly, and you can trust that this is going to not only very easily take the hardtop off of your Wrangler, but it's also going to safely store it in the air, making sure that you're saving storage space inside your garage or wherever you're mounting the hoist. Not to mention, this is also going to come with guides to make sure that the straps are staying in place and that the straps are not sitting directly on the hardtop and damaging any of the finishes on the hardtop itself. Now, with all of that being said, this is going to come in at roughly $100. Like I said, this is a very affordable option for a hardtop hoist. Now, in comparison to some other options on the page, like I said, this is going to be a pretty simple system, but I really think that that shines through considering that it makes it very easy to use. Some other options will usually include a crank system, they may include a pulley system, or they are going to include a winch or something as far as the electronics are concerned, which will make it a little bit more expensive and a little bit more difficult to install. Now, with this system, again, you're going to evenly pull, which will make it very easy to take the hardtop off of your Jeep, and for $100, you really can't beat it. Now, as far as the install is concerned, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about 3 hours to get the job done in your garage. Now, I would like to mention that you will need at least a 7-foot tall ceiling with room underneath to park your Jeep in order to install this, and that the 2x4s or 2x6s, as well as some of the hardware in order to mount those to the studs in your garage, are not included in the kit, but you can find them at your local hardware store, and they are pretty inexpensive. So speaking of that install, let me walk you through that right now. The tools that I used for my install were an impact wrench, a 3/16 and a 13/16 inch drill bit, a T20 torque socket, a marker, a tape measure, a 10-inch extension, a dead blow, a square, and a drill. So the first couple of steps of this install are taking some measurements of where you want your Jeep to sit in your garage so you can make sure that you're properly installing the hoist in the same location. Now, how you're going to do this, you're going to back your Jeep into the garage, making sure that it's in the most comfortable location for you and making sure that there's enough space between the Jeep and the back wall in order to operate the hoist and lift up the rear glass. You're going to want to make a mark when the Jeep is in the garage to make sure that it's going to be in the same location every time. Then you can take the hardtop off the same way that you always would and place that in the same location so we can install our guides and make some measurements on our ceiling so we can install our hoist. So our first step to what we're going to do is install our guides. We're going to have 2 for the front and 2 for the rear. I have a little bit of painter's tape here just to keep them in place while we get our measurements, and then we can go ahead and work on our hoist. So what we can do next is install our front guides. They are going to be labeled. It is going to list JK 2-door as well. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to the JL 2-door. They are going to be side specific, and the JK and the JL are going to be opposite. So we're working on the JL 2-door left, which is the driver's side, and we are going to mount it on the outside of this rubber stopper here on the underside of the hardtop. So you kind of want to make sure that that's butted up against there. Now, once that's in place, I'm just going to take a piece of painter's tape and just secure this down. Then we can do the same thing for the other side. Next, we can take our rear guides and put them into each of the corners of the hardtop. Again, these are going to be side specific. This is the left and the passenger side is going to be the right. So I added a piece of painter's tape here. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. What we're gonna do in a second is take a plumb and measure it from the ceiling down to the guide to make sure that we're getting the correct measurement on our ceiling. But the plumb is gonna have to sit 2 inches from the center. So we are gonna wanna measure that and make a mark so it's measured correctly and we can get the correct measurement on our ceiling. So I'm just gonna take a tape measure and a marker and mark on the painter's tape where that's supposed to sit. And we can do that on the other side as well. So what we can do at this point is take a plumb. This is just going to be a string with something heavy tied to the end of it. I just have some hardware tied to the end of it. You can take a nut or a washer and tie it to the end of a string. And we are going to hang it from the ceiling and align it with our guides. So we're gonna have a mark for each of our guides, and then we're gonna measure out where we need to put our 2x6s. So I have a marker and my plumb. We're gonna go up to the ceiling and drop this down so we can align it with our front guides. We can make a mark, label it, and then do the same thing for all the other guides. So what we can do right now, since we have made our measurement of where our plumb sat with our guide, I'm working in the rear right now, but what I'm gonna do is take this measurement and measure 12 inches back, and that is where we're gonna mount up our 2x6. Now in the front, we're just gonna measure 12 inches forward, and we're gonna do the same thing for the front. But right now, we are just going to measure this out, make a mark with a square, and then repeat that for all 4 corners. So that is where it needs to be. We can take our square, line that up. Now this is gonna be where our 2x6 is gonna be located. And we can do the same thing on all 4 corners. So at this step, now that we have our measurements, we're ready to mount up our 2x4s, our 2x6s that are gonna hold our eye-lag screws and hold the straps for our hoist. Now this step is going to depend on how your garage is set up and how the rafters are set up in your garage. Now my rafters are parallel to my setup here, so I'm going to be mounting up my 2x4, my 2x6 perpendicular. Now if you are in a garage that has perpendicular rafters, you're just going to do the opposite. You're going to mount it up parallel to your garage. Now the 2x4s and the 2x6s, as well as the hardware that you are going to mount this up with, is not included in the kit. However, you can find that at your local hardware store, and they are pretty inexpensive. So at this point, what we can do is take our 2x4 or our 2x6, whatever you're using at home, and we can mount that up on the marked locations at that 12-inch mark, and then we can go ahead and secure it down with some wood screws. So mine spans the length or the width of my structure here. However, you can mount up your 2x4 or your 2x6 individually. A dead blow to line this up. You want to make sure that it's centered on that line there. So at this point, now that we have our 2x4 in place, you're going to want to secure it down. I would recommend to drill a pilot hole. I have already done so with a 3/16 inch drill bit. Then I'm going to take our wood screws and make sure that they are attached to our studs. You will need to use a stud finder in order to do this. Ours are exposed, so I don't necessarily need that tool, but I'm going to take this as well as a T20 Torx bit or Torx socket and secure those down. So after this front one is attached, we can repeat that same process in the back. So now that we have our 2x6s installed, what we can do is measure out where we need to mount our eyelet screws. Now from the center, we're gonna need to measure out 20 inches either way. They need to be about 40 inches apart, and up at the front, they need to be about 25 inches apart. So what I'm gonna do is take my tape measure as well as my marker and my square and make a mark from the center out 20 inches on either side. So I made a small mark. We can take our square and mark that across. We can do that on both sides. So for the front, again, they have to be 25 inches apart. So from the center, we're gonna measure out 12.5 inches. So what we can do now is attach our eyelag screws. Now we will need to drill a pilot hole for these. I'm gonna use my drill and a 13/16 inch drill bit. We're gonna drill in the center of the mark that we've made on either side. And then we can use an extension to help screw them in. So you can kind of get it started by hand, but then you can take an extension. I'm just using a 10-inch extension just to give myself a little bit of leverage, screwing this in. We can continue to screw it in until the threads stop. You want to make sure that you're not over tightening this. You want to make sure that you tighten it just to that lip there, that last thread, and you want to make sure that you don't under tighten it either. So up until that mark, and then you'll be good to go. You can do the same thing for the other one. Then we can repeat that process in the back. So what we can do at this point is take the longer part of our straps and we can hang it on our front eyelet on either side. So at this point, what we're gonna do is take the end of our strap, we're going to send it over the roll bar underneath the hard top, and we're gonna align it with our guide up at the front. You wanna make sure that we're not wrapping it around the roll bar because then we won't be able to lift the hard top off the Jeep. So the straps are pretty long, and make sure we're kind of feeding it through. And we're gonna send this to the back. I just wanna make sure that the strap is sitting in the guide correctly. Then we can actually just send the rest of this to the trunk or the cargo area. Then we can do the same thing with our passenger side. What we can do now, making sure that the cam buckle is facing the back wall, is hook it on our eyelet like this. What we're gonna do now is take our strap and open up our cam buckle, and we can feed that through. Now this is gonna be a one-way style cam buckle, so we'll be able to pull this down, but it won't be able to pull from the other side, making sure that our hardtop is secured. So now that that's sitting in the front and the rear guide and it's tight, we can repeat that on the other side, and then we can lift our hardtop off of our Wrangler. At this point, our hardtop hoist is installed, and all we have to do at this point is lift the hardtop off of our Wrangler. And how we're gonna do that is just by pulling down on the straps on either side evenly. So after the hardtop is off of the Jeep, all you have to do is drive your Jeep out of your garage, and then you're all set to go. So now that we've backed our Jeep in, we can put our hardtop back on our Wrangler by very lightly squeezing down on these cam buckles here. And that's gonna start to drop our hardtop into place. Now we wanna kind of make sure that we're doing this evenly. And you'll be able to kind of push up on the hardtop to get it level with your Wrangler. We can do the same thing on the other side. Once the hardtop's back on the Jeep, we can undo our straps on either side. Now, in order to put your T-tops as well as the back glass down, you will need to remove the guides. You can just lift up on the hardtop, just wiggle those out. So after you're finished using your hardtop hoist, you want to make sure that you are securing your hardtop correctly with all of the factory hardware, and then you'll be all set to go. So that's going to wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos and products just like this, and always keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.